Maria had always been a fighter. Life had not been easy for her. After her husband left years ago, she had raised her son, Leo, on her own. They had moved from town to town, taking odd jobs to survive. She worked hard, often late into the night, to make sure Leo had food on the table and shoes on his feet. Even though life was hard, Maria never gave up. She dreamed of a place where they could finally belong, a place that was truly theirs. When Maria learned she had inherited her grandmother's old ranch house, she felt a mix of hope and fear. The house was far away from the town they had lived in. It was surrounded by open fields and snow-covered mountains. From the outside, it looked empty and cold. The paint was faded, the windows were broken, and the roof sagged under years of neglect. People in the nearby town said the house was abandoned for a reason. Some even whispered it was unlucky. But Maria ignored their warnings. She knew her grandmother had loved this place, and Maria wanted to honor her memory. She packed their few belongings in the old truck and drove through the winding roads. The winter air was sharp, and snowflakes danced around the windshield. Leo, sitting beside her, stared silently at the fields passing by. He had never seen so much snow before. Maria reached over and held his hand. She smiled and said, "We are going to be okay, Leo. This is our new beginning." When they arrived, Maria parked the truck beside the house. She stepped out and immediately felt the cold bite through her coat. The wind howled across the fields, and the house seemed even lonelier than she had imagined. She looked at the windows, covered in frost, and the wooden steps, cracked and worn. She took a deep breath and turned to Leo. "Come on, let's see our new home," she said. Leo hesitated for a moment, but followed her. The door creaked loudly as Maria pushed it open. Inside, the house was dark. The wooden floors were cold under their boots. Dust covered every surface, and cobwebs hung in the corners like forgotten memories. The smell of old wood and winter filled the rooms. Maria wrapped her scarf tighter and said, "It will take some work, but we can fix it." She walked through the house, opening each room carefully. The living room was large but empty. A fireplace sat in the corner, its blackened stones silent and cold. Maria imagined it filled with firelight, warm and inviting. She could see Leo running across the floors, laughing and playing, the room full of life again. She smiled to herself. "One day, it will be like that," she whispered. The kitchen was small and outdated. The sink was rusty, and the cupboards hung crookedly on the walls. Maria opened one of them and found old dishes covered in dust. She cleaned them and set them aside. She planned to cook their first meal here, imagining the smell of soup and bread warming the house. The bedrooms were simple. One for Maria, one for Leo. The windows were cracked, letting the cold wind in. Maria looked at Leo's room and said, "We will fix this. You will have a warm, cozy room soon." Leo nodded quietly. He trusted his mother, even when the house seemed scary. That night, Maria lit a small fire in the fireplace, using pieces of wood she had gathered outside. The fire was small, but it gave a little warmth. She wrapped Leo in a blanket and sat close to him. The cold was still there, but the fire made it bearable. Maria told Leo stories about her grandmother, who had lived in this house when she was young. She spoke of the garden in summer, the animals she kept, and the small joys that filled the home. Leo listened with wide eyes, imagining the house full of life and warmth. As the fire crackled, Maria made a plan. She knew the house could not be fixed in a day or a week. It would take months. The roof would need repairs, the walls would need insulation, and the floors needed fixing. She also needed to make sure they had enough food, water, and firewood to survive the winter. But she did not feel afraid. She felt ready. She had survived so much already, and now she had a chance to build something lasting for her and Leo. In the following days, Maria worked from sunrise to sunset. She cleared snow from the paths around the house and chopped firewood for warmth. She cleaned each room carefully, scrubbing floors and washing windows. Every small improvement made the house feel more like home. Leo helped too. He carried small pieces of wood, picked up tools, and sometimes just sat quietly, watching his mother work. Maria praised him often, saying, "You are my little helper. We are a team." Neighbors from the nearby town were curious. Some looked at Maria with doubt, shaking their heads as they whispered to each other. But Maria ignored their gossip. She knew that their words could not stop her. Her focus was on Leo and their future. She wanted to teach him that hard work, patience, and hope could overcome any obstacle. Evenings were the hardest. The wind outside roared like a wild animal, and the snow drifted high against the windows. Maria would sit by the fire, holding Leo close. She would tell him stories about hope, courage, and the love they shared. Leo would fall asleep in her arms, feeling safe despite the cold and the emptiness around them. One night, Maria found an old box in the attic. It contained her grandmother's letters, some old photographs, and a few keepsakes. She read each letter carefully, smiling at the memories her grandmother had written about. Her grandmother had spoken of the beauty of the mountains, the joy of simple living, and the importance of family. Maria felt a warmth in her heart, knowing that her grandmother's spirit was still part of the house. She showed the letters to Leo, telling him, "Your great-grandmother loved this house. Now we will love it too." As the first part of winter passed, the house began to change. The broken windows were temporarily covered, the floors were swept and cleaned, and the fireplace kept them warm. It was not perfect, but it was theirs. Maria felt proud. She had turned a lonely, frozen house into a place with light, warmth, and hope. Maria often looked at Leo as he played near the fire. She saw his laughter, his small acts of kindness, and his curiosity about the world. She knew that no matter how hard life had been, they could build a new life together. She whispered to herself, "We are safe. We are home. And this is only the beginning." The cold wind still howled outside, but inside, the house was alive. Every crack in the walls, every creaking floorboard, was a reminder of the hard work they had done and the love they shared. Maria smiled, holding Leo close, knowing that together, they could face anything. The frozen house was no longer abandoned. It was the start of a new chapter filled with warmth, hope, and love. The next morning, Maria woke early, her body sore from the work of the previous day. She stepped outside and looked at the snow-covered ranch. The sun was just rising behind the mountains, casting soft pink and orange light across the fields. The beauty of the scene made her heart lift, but she knew the work ahead would not be easy. Leo, still sleepy, followed her out of the house, rubbing his eyes. "Can we play outside today?" he asked softly. Maria smiled and knelt to his level. "We will play soon, Leo. But first, we have to make sure our home is safe and warm. After that, the fun will come." Maria made a plan for the day. She would start with the roof. The snow had piled high on top, and she feared it might collapse if they did not clear it. She grabbed a ladder, gloves, and a sturdy broom. Leo watched from below, fascinated by his mother's determination. He wanted to help, but Maria knew the ladder was too dangerous for him. She promised him that once the snow was cleared, they could build a small snow fort together. Climbing carefully, Maria began brushing away the snow. Her muscles ached, and the wind cut through her coat, but she kept working. As she cleared each section, she imagined the roof strong and safe, protecting them from the harsh winter. After several hours, the roof was clear. Maria felt proud. It was a small victory, but an important one. She called down to Leo, "All done. Now, we are safer from the snow." Leo clapped his hands and ran to hug her, his excitement warming her heart. Next, Maria focused on the windows. Many panes were broken, letting cold air seep in. She cleaned the frames and patched the broken glass with plastic sheets she had found in the barn. It was not perfect, but it stopped most of the wind. She then placed thick blankets over the frames for extra warmth. Each step made the house feel less like an abandoned building and more like a home. While working, Maria noticed the kitchen sink was leaking. Water dripped slowly, forming small ice patches on the floor. She grabbed a wrench and some old pipes from the shed. It took patience, trial, and error, but she fixed the leak. The dripping stopped. Maria smiled and whispered to herself, one problem solved. That's one step closer to comfort. Leo, meanwhile, explored the barn. He found old animal brushes, buckets, and tools. Maria laughed as she watched him pretend to sweep the barn floor. You are doing a great job, Leo, she said. Soon, we will have animals here, and this barn will be very busy. Leo's eyes lit up at the idea. He imagined chickens clucking, a few goats playing, and maybe even a dog joining them. By mid-afternoon, Maria prepared a simple lunch of bread, soup, and cheese. The fire in the fireplace kept the kitchen warm. She and Leo sat at the small table, eating slowly. The warmth of the fire, the smell of food, and the sound of Leo's laughter made Maria feel content. Even though the house was far from perfect, it was theirs, and that was enough for now. After lunch, Maria moved on to the attic. It was dusty, dark, and full of old boxes. She began sorting through them carefully, finding items her grandmother had kept. There were old clothes, handwritten journals, and jars filled with seeds. Maria smiled, reading a journal entry about her grandmother planting flowers in the spring. She thought about how lovely it would be to have a garden here. Leo helped her carry boxes down, excited by the little treasures they discovered. Each item reminded them of the past, but also inspired them to create a future. As the day passed, Maria felt the fatigue of constant work. Her hands were sore, her back ached, and her boots were wet from melting snow. She sat by the fire, rubbing her hands together. Leo climbed into her lap, tired but happy. Mom, he said softly, this house is cold, but it feels safe with you. Maria hugged him tightly. His words warmed her more than any fire could. She realized that no matter how hard the work was, every effort she made was for Leo. He was her strength, and she would not let him down. Later, Maria decided to focus on the garden area. Most of it was covered in snow, but she could see the shapes of old flower beds and vegetable patches. She made notes in her notebook, planning how she would plant vegetables and flowers in spring. She also thought about growing herbs near the kitchen, imagining the aroma filling the air. For the first time, she felt hope for the future beyond just survival. She saw the house and land as a place of growth, life, and happiness. The town neighbors began to notice her work. At first, they watched from a distance, unsure of her abilities. Some even shook their heads, thinking a single mother could not handle such a large, old house in the middle of winter. But Maria ignored their doubts. She focused on small achievements every day, fixing a window, clearing the snow, cooking a hot meal, or organizing the attic. Slowly, her persistence began to speak louder than the gossip. One evening, as the sky turned pink and orange, Maria and Leo lit the fireplace and sat together. The house was quieter now. The patched windows held the warmth inside, and the small stove kept the kitchen comfortable. Maria told Leo stories about her grandmother, imagining what the house looked like when it was full of life. She could almost hear the laughter of children, the clucking of chickens, and the voices of neighbors visiting. She realized that with patience, they could bring that life back again. Before bed, Maria walked through the house, checking each room. She saw progress everywhere. Though broken walls, drafts, and old furniture remained, she could picture the final result. She imagined cozy bedrooms, a warm kitchen, and a living room where Leo could play safely. Each step she took reminded her that small victories mattered. They were building a home, not just surviving in an abandoned house. Leo fell asleep quickly that night, tired from the day's adventures. Maria sat by the fire, writing in her notebook. She recorded what she had done today, what needed fixing tomorrow, and her dreams for the house. Writing gave her clarity and motivation. She knew the work would not end quickly, but she had the determination to continue. She whispered to herself, "We will make this house a home. Leo will have a happy childhood here, and we will be safe and warm." Outside, the wind howled and snow drifted higher against the windows. Inside, the fire crackled, and the house felt alive. Maria felt a quiet pride in her heart. The challenges were many, but with each day, she was making progress. She had faced the cold, the loneliness, and the overwhelming tasks, yet she had not given up. Each small victory was proof that she could turn this abandoned, frozen house into a haven of warmth, love, and life. The first week of work ended with a sense of accomplishment. The house was still far from perfect, but it was no longer abandoned. Maria had restored light, warmth, and hope. She held Leo close that night, knowing that the days ahead would bring more hard work, but also joy. She smiled at the thought of spring, of flowers growing, and of the life they would create together. The frozen house was slowly transforming, and so were they. Maria realized that determination, love, and patience could overcome even the coldest winter. She closed her eyes, feeling proud of the progress they had made. Tomorrow, new challenges would come, but she knew she and Leo could face them together. The house was no longer a place of fear and abandonment. It was the beginning of a new life, a place of hope, warmth, and possibility. Winter had settled over the mountains, and Maria's small ranch was slowly changing. The snow still covered the fields, but the house was warmer, brighter, and more welcoming. Each day, Maria worked tirelessly, fixing broken doors, patching walls, and clearing paths. Leo helped where he could, carrying small pieces of firewood, sweeping floors, and even helping his mother organize tools in the barn. One morning, as Maria carried a stack of firewood to the kitchen, she heard voices outside. She looked up and saw two neighbors standing by the gate. One was Mr. Harris, a farmer who lived a mile down the road, and the other was Mrs. Lena, who ran the small general store in town. They were bundled in heavy coats, their faces showing surprise and curiosity. Maria smiled and waved. "Good morning," she said warmly. "Good morning, Maria," Mrs. Lena replied cautiously. "We saw you working all week. We didn't expect you to fix that old house in the middle of winter." Maria laughed softly. "It is hard work, but I want this house to be our home. I want Leo to have a safe place to grow up." Mr. Harris nodded slowly. "It is impressive. Most people would have given up already. You are very determined." Maria felt a small surge of pride. For weeks, the neighbors had watched from a distance, whispering doubts. Now, they were seeing her efforts up close. She invited them in for tea, and they stepped inside the warm kitchen. The house smelled of fresh bread and soup. The patched windows kept the cold out, and the fireplace crackled softly. "This place is starting to feel like home," Maria said, serving tea. "It still needs a lot of work, but we are getting there." Mrs. Lena smiled. "It is amazing what you have done in just a few weeks. The house is full of life again. Leo seems happy too." Leo, shy at first, peeked from behind his mother and waved. The neighbors laughed and praised his good behavior. Maria felt a warmth in her heart, not just from the fire, but from the kindness of people who were finally beginning to see her efforts. After that visit, more neighbors began to notice Maria's work. Some offered advice, while others simply observed. Slowly, the whispers of doubt turned into curiosity and respect. People started realizing that Maria was not just fixing a house, she was building a home with love and determination. Encouraged by the support, Maria focused on making the ranch more functional. She cleared a small area near the barn to create a vegetable patch. The soil was frozen, but she prepared it as best she could, imagining the fresh vegetables they would grow in spring. She also gathered firewood, organizing it neatly so that even the coldest nights would be bearable. Leo loved helping with the animals. They had no animals yet, but Maria promised him that once the barn was ready, they would get chickens, goats, and maybe a dog. Leo spent hours cleaning the barn and arranging tools. Maria watched him with pride, seeing his excitement and sense of responsibility. She knew he would grow up learning the value of hard work and care for others. One evening, while preparing dinner, Maria noticed that a few neighbors had left baskets of food outside the gate. Fresh vegetables, eggs, and even some homemade bread were placed there quietly. She felt a lump in her throat. People who had once doubted her were now offering help without asking for anything in return. She smiled at Leo. "See, Leo? We are not alone anymore. People are starting to care." The days grew colder, and the nights longer. Maria continued her work, repairing floors, reinforcing walls, and insulating windows. Each improvement made the house warmer and safer. She also made a small study area for herself and Leo. Bookshelves were lined with old books, some belonging to her grandmother, others from the small town library. Maria wanted Leo to learn, to explore the world through reading, even when he was confined by the harsh winter. One snowy morning, Maria found an old key hidden under a loose floorboard in the living room. She could see the excitement in Leo's eyes. "Mom, what do you think it opens?" he asked eagerly. Maria examined the key carefully. It looked old, sturdy, and special. "I am not sure, Leo, but maybe it belongs to a secret part of the house. We will find out together." The discovery sparked a new energy in Maria. She and Leo searched the house carefully, looking for a hidden door or a locked chest. Behind a large shelf in the attic, they found a small wooden door. The key fit perfectly. Inside, they discovered an old trunk filled with family letters, photographs, and keepsakes from generations past. Maria felt a deep connection to her grandmother and great-grandmother. She shared the letters with Leo, telling him stories of their family's history. Leo listened with wonder, amazed that they were uncovering secrets of the past while building their future. Word of Maria's work spread through the town. People started coming by, offering tools, advice, and sometimes simply company. Some helped repair the roof, while others brought seeds and plants for the garden. Maria welcomed the help gratefully, knowing that together they could accomplish much more. Through it all, Maria taught Leo the importance of kindness, patience, and teamwork. "It is not just about fixing a house," she said one day as they cleared snow together. "It is about building a life, a community, and helping others when they need it. That is what makes a home truly warm." The ranch slowly began to transform. The house, once cold and lonely, now glowed with warmth. The fireplace crackled each night, the windows held the heat inside, and the rooms were filled with laughter and love. Even the neighbors began to gather occasionally, sharing meals, helping with repairs, or simply talking by the fire. Maria had not only revived the house but also brought life to the ranch and connected with the community around her. As winter continued, Maria knew the hardest work was still ahead. The garden would need planting, the barn would need repairs, and there were countless small tasks to keep the house functional. But she also knew that with determination, hope, and help from the neighbors, nothing was impossible. She watched Leo play in the snow, his laughter echoing across the fields. She felt proud of what they had achieved so far and excited for the life they were building together. Maria often reflected on the journey. From the moment she first arrived, facing the cold, the isolation, and the abandoned house, she had grown stronger. Leo had grown braver, more responsible, and happier. The ranch, once empty and frozen, was now alive with warmth, hope, and love. She realized that challenges were not meant to stop her. They were meant to make her stronger and more determined. That night, as Maria tucked Leo into bed, she looked around the house. The fireplace glowed softly, casting warm light across the walls. The shadows of the furniture danced in the flickering flames. Maria smiled. They had come a long way, but she knew the journey was far from over. Still, she felt confident that together, they could face anything. Maria whispered softly to Leo, "We are safe, we are loved, and we have each other. This house is no longer just walls and a roof. It is a home. And it is only going to get better." Leo, smiling in his sleep, seemed to understand. Outside, the snow fell gently, covering the fields in white. Inside, the house was warm, bright, and alive. Maria had turned a frozen, abandoned house into a place of hope and community. She had learned that hard work, love, and persistence could change not only a house but the lives of those within it. The journey was just beginning, and she was ready for whatever lay ahead. The long winter finally began to ease, and the first signs of spring appeared on Maria's ranch. Snow melted slowly, revealing patches of brown earth and dormant grass. Maria breathed deeply, feeling a new sense of energy. The harsh cold that had kept them indoors for months was fading, and the promise of warmer days filled her heart with hope. Maria had a long list of tasks to complete. The garden needed preparation, the barn needed repairs, and the house still required small fixes to make it fully comfortable. She rose early every morning, even before the sun peeked over the mountains, ready to face the day with determination. Leo followed, eager to help in any way he could. "Mom, can we plant seeds today?" Leo asked, his eyes shining with excitement. Maria smiled. "Yes, Leo. Today we start our garden. It will take time, but it will grow strong, just like you." They began by clearing the garden plot. The soil was muddy and cold, but Maria and Leo worked together, pulling out rocks and old weeds. Maria showed Leo how to dig carefully, make rows for planting, and press seeds gently into the soil. Leo giggled as he sprinkled seeds, imagining them growing into tall vegetables and bright flowers. While Maria worked in the garden, she also focused on the barn. The wooden beams had weakened over the winter, and some needed replacement. With help from neighbors who had started to trust her skills, she repaired the roof, strengthened the walls, and organized the interior for future animals. Leo watched as chickens would soon have a safe home and goats would play in the yard. He even suggested they get a small dog for protection and companionship. Maria laughed at his enthusiasm, agreeing that it would make their ranch feel complete. The house also received attention. Maria fixed the floors that had warped from the winter cold, replaced broken shelves, and repainted the walls with warm, cheerful colors. She arranged the furniture in a way that made the rooms feel inviting and comfortable. Each small improvement made the house warmer, brighter, and more welcoming. For the first time since arriving, Maria felt a sense of completion. The house was no longer just a shelter. It was a home filled with warmth, love, and life. Maria continued to find inspiration in the letters and photographs she had discovered in the attic. She shared the stories with Leo, teaching him about his family history and the hard work of those who had lived before him. Leo loved hearing about his great-grandmother planting flowers in the spring, and he began to take pride in the work they were doing together. The past and present connected in their daily life, reminding Maria that she was carrying forward a legacy of resilience and care. Neighbors began visiting more frequently. Some brought seeds, tools, or small gifts to help Maria and Leo. Others came to offer advice or simply enjoy the warmth of the newly revived house. Maria welcomed them all, grateful for the support and friendship. Slowly, the ranch became a hub of activity, laughter, and kindness. People who had once doubted her now admired her determination and the progress she had made. One bright morning, Maria received a surprise visit from Mrs. Lena, the woman from the town store, and her son. They brought fresh bread, milk, and some seedlings for the garden. "Maria," Mrs. Lena said warmly, "you have done something wonderful here. You have turned an abandoned house into a place full of life. We wanted to help you start the spring right." Maria's eyes shone with gratitude. "Thank you so much. Your help means a lot to us. We are learning, growing, and making this place our home. It feels like a real community is forming around us." Spring brought not only warmth but also challenges. Heavy rains sometimes flooded parts of the garden, and strong winds tested the roof Maria had repaired. Yet, each challenge taught her patience and persistence. She worked tirelessly, often alongside Leo, ensuring that the ranch and house remained strong. Leo learned responsibility, helping to carry tools, collect firewood, and monitor the animals they were beginning to care for. Together, they faced difficulties with determination, understanding that every problem had a solution if approached with care. By mid-spring, the garden was flourishing. Bright green shoots emerged from the soil, promising fresh vegetables for the coming months. Maria and Leo watered them carefully each day, thrilled to see their efforts taking shape. Flowers bloomed along the pathways, adding color and life to the once barren landscape. The smell of fresh soil and growing plants filled the air, making the ranch feel alive and welcoming. The barn was now ready for animals. They adopted a few chickens and 2 small goats, naming each one. Leo laughed as the chickens clucked and the goats jumped around the yard. Maria watched him with pride. She had not only provided a safe home but also created a space where her son could learn, play, and experience the joys of nature. The animals brought warmth and energy, completing the transformation of the ranch. The house itself became a place of gathering. Neighbors often stopped by to enjoy a meal, share stories, or help with small repairs. Maria's hard work and dedication had inspired a sense of community. People who had once doubted her now admired her resilience and determination. Children from the nearby town sometimes visited Leo, and the house echoed with laughter and play. What had been an abandoned, frozen house was now a vibrant, welcoming home. One evening, Maria and Leo sat by the fire, looking at the photographs and letters from the past. Maria reflected on the journey they had taken. From the first day they arrived, facing snow, cold, and isolation, to now, the transformation was remarkable. The house and ranch had been brought back to life, but so had their spirits. Maria felt a deep sense of accomplishment and peace. Leo, holding a small book of family stories, looked at his mother and said, "Mom, I love our home. It is so warm and happy now. I am glad we never gave up." Maria hugged him tightly, tears of joy in her eyes. "I am glad too, Leo. We worked hard, stayed strong, and believed in ourselves. That is what made our home so special." Spring had brought new life not only to the ranch and house but also to Maria and Leo. They had turned an abandoned property into a place of warmth, hope, and happiness. Each day, the house grew more comfortable, the garden more beautiful, and the ranch more lively. The challenges of winter had been overcome, replaced by growth, learning, and joy. As the sun set over the mountains, Maria stepped outside, holding Leo's hand. They looked at the garden, the barn, and the house, now glowing with life and light. Maria felt proud of what they had achieved together. The frozen house, once abandoned and lonely, was now a haven of warmth and hope. It was a place where dreams could grow, families could thrive, and love could flourish. Maria knew that the journey was ongoing. There would be more challenges, more work, and new lessons to learn. But she also knew that with determination, courage, and the support of their growing community, nothing could stop them. The ranch was no longer a place of despair. It was a symbol of resilience, a home full of life, and a reminder that love and perseverance could turn any house into a haven. As night fell, Maria tucked Leo into bed and kissed his forehead. She looked around the warm, cozy house, feeling the happiness and security that they had created. For the first time in years, Maria felt truly at peace. Their life on the ranch, built from hard work, hope, and love, was just beginning, and the possibilities felt endless. Summer arrived on the ranch, painting the mountains and fields with shades of green and gold. The snow had melted completely, leaving soft grass underfoot and flowers blooming along the paths Maria had planted in spring. The house, once abandoned and frozen, now radiated warmth, life, and comfort. Maria looked around with pride, knowing how far they had come. Leo ran across the yard, chasing the chickens as they clucked and flapped their wings. Two small goats nibbled at the grass near the barn, bleating softly. Maria smiled, watching her son laugh freely. The animals had brought energy and joy to their days, and the garden flourished with vegetables and herbs. It was a lively, thriving home. Each morning, Maria rose early, tending to the animals and checking the garden. She watered the plants, fed the chickens, and swept the barn. Leo helped with small tasks, carrying water or gathering eggs. Maria took pride in teaching him responsibility and care. She saw how much he had grown, not just in size but in confidence and kindness. Neighbors often visited now. Some came to exchange vegetables from their own gardens, others came to offer tools, advice, or simply enjoy a meal in the warm house. Maria welcomed everyone, her heart full of gratitude for the sense of community they had built together. The ranch, which had once seemed isolated and lonely, was now a place of connection, laughter, and friendship. One bright afternoon, Maria decided to make the house even more welcoming. She cleaned every corner carefully, polished the floors, and hung colorful curtains in the windows. She rearranged the furniture so the rooms felt open and inviting. The fireplace, now well maintained, filled the living room with warmth. She added a small reading nook for Leo, lining the shelves with books and stories for him to explore. Leo helped enthusiastically, dusting shelves and placing his favorite toys neatly in the corner. He giggled as he arranged the chickens' names on a small board in the barn. Maria watched him with a smile. She realized that these small details, this attention to comfort and beauty, were what truly made a house a home. The letters and photographs from the attic continued to inspire them. Maria framed some of the old family pictures and placed them around the house. She told Leo stories of his great-grandmother, sharing lessons of courage, patience, and love. Leo listened eagerly, sometimes asking questions, sometimes imagining the past vividly in his mind. Maria cherished these moments, feeling that the past, present, and future were connected in their home. One evening, Maria invited some neighbors over for a small gathering. They sat around the fire in the living room, sharing fresh bread, cheese, and soup. Children played together, chasing each other across the yard, while the adults laughed and shared stories. Maria realized that the warmth in the house came not only from the fireplace but from the people who filled it with love, kindness, and laughter. As the night grew quiet, Maria stepped outside with Leo. The sky was clear, and stars twinkled like diamonds above the mountains. The gentle rustle of leaves and the soft bleating of goats filled the air. Maria held Leo close, feeling a deep sense of peace. "We did it, Leo," she whispered. "We made this our home. A real home, full of life and love." Leo nodded, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "I love it here, Mom. I love our home." Maria smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. She remembered the first day they had arrived, the cold, the broken windows, the isolation. It had been hard, lonely, and uncertain. But through hard work, determination, and love, they had transformed the house and ranch into something beautiful. They had created a haven of warmth, safety, and happiness. In the weeks that followed, Maria continued to improve the ranch. She built raised garden beds, repaired fences, and added a small pond for the animals. Leo helped wherever he could, and together they planted flowers and trees. The garden grew lush and green, filled with vegetables, herbs, and colorful blossoms. The ranch had become a vibrant, thriving home. Maria also began to welcome neighbors who needed help. She shared vegetables from the garden, offered a warm meal to travelers passing by, and helped other families with small repairs. The kindness she had received earlier now flowed outward. Her home had become not just a safe place for her and Leo, but a place of generosity and community. One sunny morning, Maria looked out over the fields, watching Leo play with the chickens. She realized how much they had accomplished together. The abandoned house that had seemed so cold and impossible was now full of life, laughter, and hope. The mountains, the garden, and the animals had become part of their daily joy. She felt proud and grateful. "Mom," Leo said, running up to her with a small bouquet of wildflowers, "these are for you. Thank you for everything." Maria knelt and took the flowers, her heart full. "Thank you, Leo. You helped me make this home. We did it together." The days were long and filled with activity, but Maria never felt tired in the same way she had before. Each day brought small victories, ripe vegetables from the garden, chickens laying eggs, repairs completed, and neighbors sharing laughter. The ranch was alive, and so were they. Every challenge they had faced was now a memory of growth and achievement. As summer progressed, Maria and Leo celebrated their new life. They had a small picnic in the garden, inviting neighbors to join. They played games, shared food, and laughed under the warm sun. The house, once empty and cold, echoed with joy. The garden and barn were full of life. The ranch had become a place of beauty, hope, and love. At night, Maria would sit by the fireplace with Leo, reflecting on their journey. She spoke softly to him about the importance of perseverance, courage, and care for others. She wanted him to remember that challenges could be overcome and that home was built not only with walls and roofs, but with love and determination. Maria knew that the work would never truly end. There would always be repairs to make, crops to grow, and animals to care for. But she also knew that with patience, effort, and love, they could face anything. Their home was no longer a frozen, abandoned house. It was a living, breathing sanctuary. One evening, as the sun set over the mountains, Maria held Leo's hand and walked through the garden. The flowers glowed in the fading light, and the animals settled peacefully in the barn. She felt a quiet happiness that words could not capture. The ranch, once lonely and abandoned, was now a haven of warmth, safety, and joy. Maria whispered to herself, "We did it. We made a home. A place of love, hope, and happiness." Leo squeezed her hand, understanding without words. Together, they had transformed not only the house but their lives. The stars began to twinkle in the night sky, and the gentle sounds of the ranch filled the air. Maria looked around and realized that this was more than she had ever dreamed. The house, the garden, the animals, and the laughter of neighbors were all part of a life built on courage, determination, and love. The journey from cold and loneliness to warmth and joy had been long and challenging, but it was worth every effort. Maria tucked Leo into bed that night, kissing him on the forehead. She looked around the house, now cozy, bright, and full of life. She felt proud of what they had accomplished. The frozen house was no longer abandoned. It had become a true home, a haven of warmth, hope, and happiness for Maria, Leo, and all who visited. As she closed the door and gazed at the starlit sky, Maria whispered softly, "This is only the beginning. Our life is full of love, and our home will always be a place of warmth." She smiled, feeling the satisfaction and peace that comes from achieving a dream built with hard work, courage, and unwavering hope.